Hello everyone and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Background Information. Today we're doing a culture video and thankfully it's sort of coming out about a time that makes sense. We're talking about the paradox of the veil religious festivals. Now with the culture videos there's a little quote to begin with, but then it is literally just into the aspects of this area in the veil in my story universe. So it's not coming from any inspiration. It's anything specific, and it's not really something you can sit down and go, "Oh, okay, well, this comes from this and that comes from that." It's just literal how it is in the story for these people. So let's get into it. Ever really sat down and considered just what it means for a bunch of demons to celebrate Christmas like this, Mum? Doesn't it seem a little unusual? Quote from Blood Circle. There is another sort of place. There are all sorts of religions out there, and generally, although some forms of Christianity tend to be commonplace, they are not necessarily dominant. In fact, there are every religion outside. In fact, there is every religion outside of the veil and a couple of extra more within the veil. And when it came to modernising the veil and respecting each different culture and idea, the veil had to decide what was going on and how they were going to deal with it. So the thought was that just like some lords had observed holidays because of their religions and given their servants and serfs time off for it, so they would arrange something in law that all people and employers would have to adhere to, and that would not be without pay. But how could they choose one holiday over another? Well, they didn't. The Vale leaders, the Noble Circle, and the heads of each religion came together in a rare meeting and settled themselves down to discuss the situation and what was considered appropriate. The first question all came to was, should one religious event be considered more important than any other? The decision was a no. The second question was, should it only be the employer's religion that will affect the company? The answer was no, it would be unfair in this way. Then the third question was, how much time, which was decided that a minimum of a week was permitted for each religious occasion. The fourth question was, what if they have no religion? The answer was something they had to consider carefully before deciding that those people would be able to inform their employer what religious festival they felt they associated with more, as in what their family expected them to visit for. It wasn't a very distinct answer, and many employers would later just go by their own religious festivals unless employees made it obvious what time period they were linked to. There were there were then There were then two final questions. The fifth question was more important to the being standing there, and simply asked who's going to pay for them. To which it was obvious nothing would be achieved unless it was a governmental agreement to cover the week of pay for employers. But the final question was something all of them were aware could be the most problematic one going. What should each town celebrate? Of course, in the early days, this last question was not really considered troubling. It was not until it became obvious that commercialism, celebration, and social need to recognise these events put pressure on the later governments, veil agents, nobles, and religious leaders. It was not something that could just simply be answered because it needed sensitivity and total understanding. The simple matter was that where it was deemed appropriate and where people could enjoy it or be made aware of it, they could celebrate it. Celebration could be simple, from coupons to decorations to special foods and gifts. Each culture had different aspects to its traditions, and certainly a butcher shop might not be celebrating Christmas. And certainly a butcher shop might do better celebrating Christmas than Eid Mubarak if it sold pork. Certainly a hospital would be more appropriate to celebrate and understand all situations rather than be selective. So they began it through their services, making sure that each new business that came along understood these rules, and those of a varied workforce that knew more about celebrations others might not. It, it was even more important to listen to them and see what was possible, suitable, and that would certainly not offend. As always, there are problems with some religious groups are more combative than others in certain places, or government representatives are more one way than another, and tend to push through ideas more suitable to their religion than others. But it seemed to go well. There was the growing development of television and radio too, but instead of this being a complicated system, it instead became the best way to educate people, particularly children, about the celebrations their friends had. Of course, nothing's perfect, and this doesn't always help religious tolerance within the veil at certain times, but it means that certain places can become rather famous for great parties, celebrations, festivals, and other such things around certain times. Christmas, however, has become a bit more of a phenomenon in the past 40 years in the Vale. Some believe it's because it is the most easy celebration to commercialise and market, but not everyone is comfortable with it just having a couple more festivals around and a lot more focus rather than other celebrations. This has come with something that's considered quite a paradox. All reformed demons celebrate Christmas. It is something everyone else in the Vale finds truly confusing, but for the demons in the Vale come stories of how the teachings Jesus brought and the fact they were a well-known exorcist, but not unkind to demons who wish to change, means the celebration means a lot to them. Demons naturally are more showy and in your face about their activities and celebrations, and they celebrate a lot of things, but certainly Christmas is an utterly bizarre situation as demons ask for help. As demons as demons actively get involved in charity and make a point to gift everyone that meets them and asks for help. It can lead to some ridiculous events, but certainly the demons do tend to make Christmas a good time. Everyone tends to find enjoyable because the demons rather enforce the idea that it is a time of goodwill and kindness to everyone. Although outside of Christian families, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, it's not a tradition. It's not as traditional for it to be a big thing in the modern Vale. Certainly, the Vale universe is a little more inclusive, but certainly many coming into the Vale, it often feels like it doesn't celebrate the same things as much as it should. It's often a big difficulty for those born outside the Vale to come and understand, especially when beings like Father Christmas are certainly not recognised or celebrated within it. Hope you found that interesting, even though it's brief and random.